In the Netherlands, representatives of several nations from the International Court of The Hague called for a total and immediate arms embargo against the Israeli government. On Thursday, the president of Palestine, Mahmoud Abbas, called for immediate international intervention to stop the Israeli genocide against the Palestinian people. And the foreign minister of China asked the Shanghai Cooperation Organization to assume the role of a stabilizing anchor in times of change and turbulence. Hello from the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Caracas, Venezuela. This is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and now we begin with the news. And now we begin with the news. The sessions of the International Court of Justice in The Hague on the legal consequences of the Israeli occupation on the Gaza Strip reaches its fourth day. The commissioners highlighted the requests made by the United Nations rapporteurs to carry out the weapons withdrawn by the Israeli occupation army. The proposal is based on the commitment of the states to guarantee the respect for international peace as it is required by the Geneva Convention. They also assured that the decision of the International Court of January 26 emphasizes the need for this procedure. The occupying forces carrying out the genocidal operation in Gaza abandoned the Nasser hospital, leaving destruction and death behind them. The Palestinian Health Ministry confirmed in a statement the complete withdrawal of the Zionist troops. No hostages, no terrorists, no tunnels to report. They leave the largest hospital in Han Yunis completely destroyed, where the patients and the staff are without supplies and medical equipment. Hostilities continue outside this health center, which was also the second largest in the Palestinian enclave. The international organization Doctors Without Borders accused the United States at the United Nations Security Council of encouraging the slaughter of thousands of Palestinians. The Secretary General of this organization, Christopher Lockyer, presented a raw narration of the daily reality of his doctors in the Strip. In a heartbreaking testimony, Lockyer explained how these teams have had to amputate children's limbs without anesthetizing them, detailed how mothers in labor receive minimal care in unhygienic plastic tents. He also stated that many children confess to their doctors that they would rather die than live orphaned and mutilated. And the delegation of the Palestinian movement Hamas, led by Ismail Haniyeh, the head of the movement's political bureau, concluded its visit to Egypt, which lasted several days, according to a press statement issued by the Hamas leader's office. The Hamas statement announcing the end of the visit detailed that they held meetings with Israeli officials and with the head of the Egyptian intelligence services, Abbas Kamel. The Israeli hostages and the Palestinian hostages were part of the agenda, as well as the flow of humanitarian aid to the north of the Strip and the current tensions around the Al-Aqsa Mosque. The delegation continues the travels, now going to Paris. And the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas calls for immediate international intervention to stop the Israeli genocide against the Palestinian people. The head of state made this known during a meeting held in Ramallah with the president of the Red Crescent Society, condemning the policies of assassinations and attacks, both by the occupation forces and the settlers. He also demanded an end to the war of starvation against a civilian population that is being brutally besieged. During the meeting, Abbas blamed Israel for the disease, famine, and epidemics because it prevents the entry of food, medical, and humanitarian aid. During an interview for TeleSUR, Cuban Deputy Foreign Minister Anayansi Rodriguez said that appealing to the International Court of Justice is a fundamental step in the face of the United States' opposition to the ceasefire against Palestine.
The International Court of Justice is precisely the highest international tribunal or judicial body of the United Nations, and appealing to that court is an essential step in times where, for example, instances such as the United Nations Security Council have been unable to fulfill their mandate and have demonstrated a pathological incapacity to act precisely because of the sustained veto of the United States, which is one of its permanent members.
In Venezuela, the people of the state of Apure received President Nicolás Maduro Moros during a caravan as a show of solidarity and support to his government. During the presidential day, Productive Wednesday, from the plains of the country, the head of state maintained direct contact with the population of that region, where he made several announcements of a productive nature. During the activity, the president approved the implementation of the plan for the recovery of the interurban roads, as well as the water supply system for the towns and the distribution for irrigation. And the new executive secretary of ALBA TCP, Venezuelan diplomat Jorge Arreaza, congratulated the people and the government of St. Lucia on the commemoration of the 45th anniversary of its independence through his account on X. In his post, the Venezuelan diplomat indicated that it is an honor to accompany the people of St. Lucia and its government on the 45th anniversary of its independence. He also said that for ALBA TCP, the countries of the Eastern Caribbean are a true example of dignity and sovereignty. Furthermore, he congratulated Prime Minister Philippe J. Pierre on the occasion of this celebration. In Colombia, mobilizations and sit-ins were held at the Supreme Court of Justice's headquarters and the facilities of the General Attorney's Office to demand the prompt election of a new Attorney General. Groups of demonstrators expressed their demand for the immediate appointment of this high-ranking official. One of the major complaints by the citizens is that the investigative entity is headed by the Deputy Attorney General, Martha Mancera, accused of covering up for the ex-director of the technical investigative body of Buenaventura linked to drug trafficking networks until the Supreme Court of Justice defines the position. And Spain proposes to the Colombian government a cooperation agreement to protect the submerged heritage of the San Jose Galleon. The ambassador of Spain, Joaquín de Aristegui, presented the protection proposal at the International Symposium on Perspectives and Challenges in the Investigation of the Discovery of the San Jose Galleon in Cartagena. This heritage sunk in the 18th century near Cartagena de Indias with a cargo of gold and silver coins and was found in 2015. The ambassador also said that the proposal could involve the collaboration of international organizations specialized in the field, such as UNESCO, to create a new paradigm for the protection of underwater heritage.
I have the instructions from my government to offer you today the possibility to continue working on the development of a bilateral cooperation agreement in this area that would allow Colombia and Spain to take a historic step, because they are able to create a paradigm of bilateral cooperation initially, and also in collaboration with the international relations specialized in the field as UNESCO, to create a new paradigm for the protection of underwater heritage.
Let's take a short break now, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find the news in different formats, news updates and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In Brazil, President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva received Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov on Thursday. Topics of vital relevance were discussed in the meeting. According to official sources, they reviewed the bilateral agenda and the issues related to the new global governance and the BRICS. They also agreed on the need to face challenges such as artificial intelligence, global conflicts, among other issues. President Lula also reiterated his willingness to cooperate with peace in Ukraine. For his part, Lavrov congratulated President Lula on the organization of the G20 Foreign Ministers meeting in Rio de Janeiro and convened President Putin's message of support for the Brazilian presidency of the group. At a press conference after the G20 Foreign Ministers meeting in Brazil, Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov calls the reaction of Western countries to the death of Alexei Navalny as hysterical, adding that Western officials have no right to interfere in their internal affairs.
They act like both the prosecutor and the judge, and as the executor of punishments, and all this in one. All this hysteria over the death of Navalny has shown this convincingly, and I don't even want to comment about this in detail. These people have no right to interfere in our internal affairs. No, I was not looking for these contacts. They apparently followed the agreement to avoid contacts with our delegation in every possible way. Well, let them be trapped in their own ways. In fact, they have been doing this for a long time.
In Argentina, the Secretary of International Relations of the Workers' Central Union, Gerardo Martinez, met on Thursday with the Deputy Director of the International Monetary Fund, Gopinath, who was visiting the country. Both of them analyzed the worrisome socio-economic situation and its impact on labor and production. The meeting, which lasted several hours at the IMF's metropolitan headquarters in the capital of Buenos Aires, served, according to the leader, for the organization to obtain first-hand information from the workers severely affected by the situation of the country. He also said that in order to meet IMF targets, productive investment policies must be generated to produce income and economic growth in general. In Argentina, the debates on the National Emergency Decree, the DNU, which will last for 10 days, began. The Permanent Bicameral Commission of Legislative Procedures began the treatment of the DNU 70 of economic deregulation issued by the government of Javier Milei. Until the next 7th of March, it will be defined if the decree meets the requirements of necessity and urgency, and if it does not legislate over the Constitution to establish its possible enforce. In order for the Commission to invalidate the decree, the rejection of both chambers is necessary, otherwise the DNU will be enacted and in effect. The Association of Parents committed to a Haitian school demanded the reopening of schools to put an end to the paralysis of school activities. The parents rejected the prolonged closure of educational centers due to the violence generated by criminal gangs and the political contradictions between the government and the opposition, requested the state to adopt drastic security measures to effectively open all schools in the national territory. Furthermore, they agreed that the children of today are the future of tomorrow, and if nothing is done to guarantee their education, the dream of a new Haiti will never be realized. We have a final short break coming up, but before, we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. We have a final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi affirmed that the members of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization must become a stabilizing factor in the midst of the strong changes the world is going through. This was stated during his speech this Friday at the ceremony to commemorate the 20th anniversary of the Secretariat of the organization. One mentions that the world is witnessing changes never seen in a century, and also that it is essential to boost the spirit of the organization and work together to make it bigger and stronger. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, genocide continues by Western countries in order to steal its riches, a reality forgotten by the international community. The escalation of tensions with its neighbor, Rwanda, has once again brought to the forefront the desperate situation they have been suffering for decades. In the last week alone, more than 135,000 people fled the city of Sake due to fighting between the M23 rebels and the Congolese armed forces. The recent conflict has already left 2.5 million people displaced. And Senegal's outgoing president, Macky Sall, said on Thursday his mandate will end as planned on April the 2nd, but left open the date of the presidential election, which he postponed earlier this month. Sall had faced a growing clamor to see a date for the vote after his abrupt delay to the February 25th election triggered weeks of political crisis. The outgoing president had announced the election delay hours before official campaigning was due to begin, with Parliament back in the move despite strong opposition, and then setting a new election date for mid-December. During a televised press interview, Sall said the date for the election will be decided after a political dialogue he intends to conduct as of Monday. In France, the Eiffel Tower is closed by the General Confederation of Labour and Workers' Force Unions on the fourth consecutive day. The poor condition of the Eiffel Tower and inefficient economic management are the main complaints raised. The unions of the General Confederation of Labour denounced the existence of an ambitious and unsustainable economic model due to an underestimation of budgets and an overestimation of income. The monument is one of the biggest tourist attractions of the country, which receives annually about 5 million visitors, which generates a very large income system. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Casara. Thank you for watching.